Hi, folks.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's board meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening that's in attendance, and if you have not already done so, if you can make sure that you sign in on the clipboard, that would be wonderful. So I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is the consent agenda. Recommended action: approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 5A, minutes of the Board of Education. 7A, budget calendar approval. And 7B, special education. May I have a motion, please?
Move. Second.
Any discussion on any of those things? If not, please vote.
And we are manual voting this meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Raise your hand or nay or aye. Aye.
Aye.
6 yes.
Our first, go to the cause. Is there anyone in our audience that would like to speak? Is there anyone online?
No emails.
Alrighty. We're moving into the presentation section of our meeting, and I'd like to welcome Mrs. Morgan and her Environmental Science Club, who recently attended the Youth Climate Summit at the Wild Center, who are going to give a presentation this evening. Welcome and thank you. Awesome.
So, hello all. My name is Holly Ironstone, and I'm currently co-president of the Environmental Club with Lily Powers. And we first want to start off just by saying thank you so much for giving us your time to let us come and present to you.
You can swipe with it, or I can give you a keyboard here.
Keyboard would be great.
Yep.
So I got involved with the Environmental Club because I have always been outdoors, hiking, biking, and skiing in particular, a sport that relies on a constant winter climate. And so that's why I am here.
The arrows.
So to catch you up on what our club has been doing for the past few years, we should probably start with the Adirondack Youth Climate Summit, which ever since Lake Placid high school student started it 16 years ago, our team has been involved every single year. Many of us spent our Sundays this year planning the event, working with the Wild Center. And the summit itself is a 2-day event, which brings together students from all over the state. And even this year, we had a few coming in from Vermont to talk about climate change, climate solutions, and what roles we can play in our school. So the first day is dedicated to kind of networking with different climate teams and organizations, and just listening to presentations, going to workshops. And then the second day is dedicated to going off with, this is some of the workshops, sorry. The second day is dedicated to going off and creating a climate action plan, which that is what we are here to present to you. And it's our 2025 climate action plan, which begins with our 60-second videos.
Joe?
Download their thing.
But first I can say, so these exist because climate change can be a really scary and intimidating thing when you look at all the
I think it was.
data and bad
Yep.
news coming in. So we created or are planning on creating
The video.
these 60-second infomercials to share climate success stories and just share climate solutions and what other students can also participate in to help with climate change as a whole. And
Ready?
so that is our first video. And we plan on having future episodes talking about composting, decreasing single-use plastics, and then energy conservation. Yeah. And now I would like to pass it off to Tyler to tell you about our next part.
Hello, my name is Tyler Armstrong. I'm an eighth grader and I joined the environmental club because my family's always cared about environment, so I was taught to care about environment also. This year at the Adirondack Youth Climate Summit, we learned about the repair fairs. The repair fair is when community members come in with broken items like microwaves, lawnmowers, and or chairs, and local experts fix them for free. Not only is it a great way to reduce our waste stream and save money, it also builds community. On March 7th, we are planning to bring local experts and businesses such as High Peak Cyclery and Mr. Below for our own Lake Placid Repair Fair hosted in the middle high school gymnasium from 9 to 2 p.m. We will have fixers for bikes, computers, clothing, furniture, appliances, and small engines. We are really excited about this event. Thank you for your support, and we hope to see you there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Griffin McCumber. I'm a senior, and I've been honored with the title Environmental Hype Person in our environmental club. I joined the environmental club because as I was young, I was surrounded by nature. It was everywhere. And as I've grown, I've seen less and less representation, and I want to change that. So on March 12th, we are planning to host an assembly, which begins with an interactive presentation to the middle and high school students in our auditorium. So the presentation will involve Blue Bomber athletes as well as professional athletes and engage our audience with how climate change affects the winter seasons as well as other climate things in Lake Placid. And the athletics are a very relevant topic to Lake Placid's history. After that, high school students will be able to attend over 8 workstations involving local experts and organizations. Workshops will include stuff like the Dark Skies program, pollution, plastic pollution, composting, and more. And at the end of the day, high school students will group back together for some final words from our environmental club and our guests. Throughout this day, we hope to spread awareness of the natural world and each of our roles in climate action.
Hi, my name is Isabel Morganson. I'm in ninth grade at the high school and I'm an alpine ski racer. I joined environmental club so I can help ensure that our winters stay cold with lots of snow so I can continue skiing.
Hi, my name is Nora Francis. I'm an eighth grader here at the middle school and I'm a Nordic ski racer. I joined the environmental club because the possibility of not having snow in our futures really scares me. And I want to be able to keep our snows or our winters skiable and snowy for as long as possible.
We are planning on having athletes and winter venue workers in a panel asking questions about how climate change has affected their jobs. We will also have a presentation of the snowfall, temperature, and lake freezing graphs and how they have changed over the years.
In this presentation, we will also have short videos showing what some of the sports are, like alpine, Nordic, skiing, bobsled, and ski jumping. We will have the athletes that are part of the environmental club make videos as well as videos that former students have already made, like the one you are about to watch.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Guglielmi. I'm a junior at Lake Placid High School, and I'm also a member of the Lake Placid Environmental Club. And I am not the person who was originally supposed to present this part of the presentation. Lily Powers was going to do this section, but she unfortunately had something come up last minute and she can't make it. So I'll be reading what she wrote. And I'm going to read verbatim. So anytime I use the word I, think of me as Lily Powers. Hello, my name is Lily Powers. I'm co-president of the Environmental Club with Holly, and I'm a senior. The final event we have planned for our climate action plan this year is something we've already done. Emma Wiley planned and organized a full day of environmental education for the elementary school as her APES project in 2024. I attended this event to help out with the recycling station, and I really loved watching the younger students having fun while learning about the earth. I joined the environmental club because my friends were doing it and I wanted to see what it was about. The more I learned, the more I wanted to learn about nature and how to protect it. The next year, when I realized that no one was planning on hosting this really cool event, I knew I had to pick up the torch. With Emma's help and support of the Wild Center, the elementary school principal, teachers, and I organized another Earth celebration for the younger students. I had a lot of fun learning a lot about the logistics of planning and organizing an event with so many people. This year, I am excited that we have a lot more students in the environmental club. I may have been a little overwhelmed last year, but this year I have a much bigger team and I'm excited to share this process with them and hopefully pass the torch on yet again. This spring, we are organizing a full day Earth celebration in the elementary school gym and library. where K through 5 students will rotate through fun interactive stations run by local organizations and our middle high school environmental club students. Some of what we will include will be pollination games, compost, and recycling stations, as well as some story times, dark skies projects, the Wild Center, and extra work from Emma that we will use again in the future. That's all for this portion. Thank you all very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Lily.
Hello, I'm John Lansing. I'm a senior at Lake Placid High School. Our mission is to raise environmental awareness at school and in the community we are establishing at Lake Placid High School. Students as leaders in sustainable living. At the Lake Placid Environmental Club, our overall goal is to make a positive impact on our community and act as role models for other schools and communities.
Leave it there.
So that was our mission statement, and we hope that creating those infomercials, hosting a school-wide presentations, and then hosting a repair fair, we hope to fulfill our mission to raise environmental awareness at school, in the community, with establishing Lake Placid students as leaders in sustainable living. We are not here to ask you of anything in particular other than just continued support. And we would like to say thank you so much for giving us the time and for listening. And yeah, have an excellent night.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was just a wonderful and thorough presentation and certainly gave us something to think about. So if anybody has any other comments here, I did notice that it was really nice to see that at your Youth Climate Summit that there's 3 schools from Vermont that are joining you, because obviously Vermont is also a very conscious state with climate. So it was really nice to see that some of those students are integrating into your club as well. So a great job. Anybody else, anything else to do?
I would add 2 things. First of all, you're doing it, not talking about it. Everybody can talk about it. And getting up and actually acting is where it happens. And the second thing is, I don't know if you're going to realize this at your age, how impressed we are that you could stand up in front of a group like this, speak so well. That courage and skill is going to be very, very well.
Stole my thunder. Thank you guys, that was awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. Keep working hard.
Well, thank you. You're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, or we certainly feel that you can get up and leave at this time if you'd like.
There's a climate to save, guys.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Yeah, you want to really start with the
Okay, moving on to our second presentation of the evening. I don't know, are we live still? Or?
Yes.
Moving on to our second presentation is Mrs. Sarah Allen. She is the director of our pupil personnel services, and she's going to be giving a presentation and an overview of the special education services that the district provides for our students. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. It's a hard show to follow there.
Yeah, we have some good 60-second clips.
Yeah.
There's sorry, there's no videos of this. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Joe, is there a way I can make this a little larger?
Full screen.
Full screen, yeah. Does. All right, so Mrs. Allen,
Yeah.
this if you want to drive, or I can drive
Yeah.
for you, whatever your
Well,
preference.
I'll try first and then.
Alright. Might be easier to scroll.
All right, so annually, I present to the board on an update on special education and our overall profile for the district. Feel free to ask questions as I go through the slides. I try to compare at least a few years together, so you'll see there's trends. So our first slide is the overall Lake Placid district population of students. So you can see we have our general education. I'm wondering where the percentages are. It's on here.
Unless I loaded a different version. Has it amended?
Nope, only the one version. Can you see them on your screens? I mean, we
Yeah,
can,
we can see them on our screen.
okay,
Sorry about this.
that's okay. You can, if you can see the percentages on your screens, they should be right in there. And so it just, here,
Thank you.
I might have to share with you because I only printed one. But you can see that the trends have overall stayed pretty consistent. With 75% of our population being in general education, about 19% of students with disabilities, and about 5% students with 504 plans. And those are pretty consistent over the years and timeframes. So then the next piece. Just not going to show there. Strange, but this next piece is still there. It's consistent pieces. It's our K through 12 instructional staff. So here, down below is the legend. Let's see. Okay, the blue pie is the general education staff overall. And then we look at special education teachers as green. The yellow is special education teaching assistants. And then the orange is related service providers. So that's OT and PT, speech, school psychologists are in there. And then the CSE chairpersons and the director of people personnel services, that red. That trend has pretty much stayed the same. Teaching assistants, we did some reassignments of teaching assistants. So we didn't actually like hire additional teaching assistants, but we did reassign some to special education. And so you can see within there that slice of pie looks a little bit bigger, but it's not actually, we didn't end up adding, we just moved and shifted.
So Sarah, excuse me, with the reassignment, was that to address some of the needs of the English language learner population?
So we shifted some of those to address some of the needs of special education, just where we focused some shared teaching assistants in the classrooms where they may be pushing, like they may have been taking students out for other pieces. And so now we've them into the classrooms a little more as shared TA. So they're accounted more under special ed versus general ed. And so that shifted there. But overall, staying pretty consistent. We did absorb a special education teacher and moved a teacher to the elementary. So there were some shifts, but we've been able to cover all the needs and supports with those shifts. Our IEPs and 504 placements by grade levels. So IEP stands for an individualized education program. Students with IEPs, you will see are represented by, oh, this is our overall student numbers at the grade levels. So
Sarah, could you explain the difference, especially if there's new members?
Yep.
Between the IEP and the 504.
So when a student, a lot of the process overlaps and can be similar for students when we're looking at if they need services. For students with an IEP, after they've had evaluations and we've come together as a committee, those students have fallen under, there's 13 classifications that New York State has. And so a student needs to fall under one of those 13 classifications, and I'll have a slide coming up with those classifications. But a student that has an IEP, you're usually looking at that student needing services and supports in the classroom or outside of the classroom. Students with 504 accommodations, sometimes these are more, it could be a more of a medical basis, or it could be a student with a need for classroom and testing accommodations, but not necessarily direct services. So we look the process when we go through, both of those are usually determined by evaluations, but it also looks at what are the students' needs and where are they falling on that 13 classifications. For a 504, you don't need to fall under classifications, but you do usually have some type of diagnosis. All right. Overall, this trend really hasn't shifted much. We do usually have, because the middle high school has more students in general, that's usually where the most of our population is for students with disabilities. And the elementary, you will see that they held pretty steady. There's a slight decrease. We had some more students move up here from 5th to 6th grade. That group was a little larger. That increased our percentage up at the middle high school a little bit. And our kindergarten group was a little smaller coming in. So you can see that those shifts ebb and flow. Preschool is held pretty steady. We do have 8 students right now in preschool, and that number has held pretty steady throughout the years. There were years, if I went a little further back, where we had a bigger preschool population, but right now it's been about around 8 or so. And then ungraded are students that have really significant needs, and we expect that those students will probably stay in school till the age of 21, and some of them are on that upper end, but they're considered ungraded because it's more based upon their age versus their grade that they're in. No percentages on this. Okay, so as we look at this, there's a continuum of services for special education. So often you're approving papers that will say different service types on there. So this is some of those service types listed out. Some of those services are provided in the general education classroom. So that means that they're pushing in, the special ed teacher may be in a math class or in a science class or in an English class. Some of those services might be outside of the general education setting. That means the students coming out and going to maybe that special ed teacher's room or the OT room or the PT room. So we provide services in both settings. Consultant teacher services are when a special ed teacher pushes into the classroom that students are in. And this is one of our, you'll see one of the services that's provided more often to students because you're keeping them in front of that content matter expert. They have that English teacher in front of them. They have a special ed teacher that pushes in and helps them make sure that they're getting all of their pieces of their IEP in that classroom. Indirect consultant, that means when the teacher talks with the teacher, but they're not working directly with that student. So that's another type of that consultant teacher service. Resource room can happen in the classroom. Most of the time it happens outside of the classroom. This cannot be a group, the student group can't be more than 5, and this is really specialized instruction for those students. So if a student has a reading need, they're getting specific work on that reading need with that special ed teacher in a very small setting with no more than 5 other students. Related services, this is when we look at counseling services, speech services, physical therapy services, occupational therapy services. Those can sometimes happen in the classroom, sometimes they happen outside of the classroom. Physical therapy is a great, lots of times our physical therapists will push into PE class to make sure the student is carrying over those skills that they're learning and working on the physical therapist. That's integrated co-teaching services. We don't currently have this right now. The star is next to that because it's one of the services on the continuum that is optional. We've had it in the past. This would be when a teacher pushes in and actually co-plans and co-teaches with another teacher. So it's also a push-in model. 15-to-1, 12-to-1. As you'll see, these numbers they get smaller, and then this one I'll talk about in a minute. But once you go into a 15-to-1 or a 12-to-1 special class, or an 8-to-1 special class, or a 6-to-1 special class, that's when students are coming out. It's been determined that they need more specific targeted instruction, and they need that from a special education teacher. So a special education teacher is teaching these classes, is planning for these classes, is prepping for these classes, and they can be in multiple subject areas. And as you look at this, the 15 would stand for the number of students, and that would be one teacher. So you could have 15 students with one teacher. We're small, we don't hit those numbers, so our smaller classes are usually smaller than 15 students. Our special classes are same thing. Like when you see the 8, they could have 8 students, one teacher. The plus 1 means there's also a teaching assistant layered into that classroom. 6 to 1 to 1, it follows that same pattern. 6 students, one teacher, one team. And then the 12-1-3-1, this is a classroom where you have students with multiple disabilities. So they're probably also being co-treated occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech pathologists. So a classroom that's more for students with significant needs. Sometimes you'll find the students that are ungraded. This would be a classroom on the continuum that they might fall into. So, and that's 3, for every 3 students, there's 1 additional staff member is how that provides. Any questions about that part? So then we talked about the services, and then here are some numbers for our services. So right now, there's some services that we can provide that we just don't have the needs for that right now. But then we have some where you can see really resource room is recommended pretty consistently for students because you are trying to improve those skills that might be lagging. And then consultant teacher, usually resource room and consultant teacher, you will go hand in hand. You see the students in the classroom, then you work with those students outside of the classroom and help to carry over all those skills, the academic skills they're needing. Occupational therapy, we have a lot of students receiving those services. And then speech therapy, physical therapy, 15 to 1 services are, we definitely have some students in 15 to 1 classrooms, but that's not the majority of our students. Same thing, you'll see counseling 8 to 1. We do have some students in Plattsburgh at a specialized placement, so that's on there as well. And some students that are receiving teacher of the visually impaired services. And that's one that you'll see will sometimes fluctuate. Sometimes we'll have that and sometimes we won't, depending on the student's needs. Those classifications that I talked about earlier, those 13 classifications, these are done. And you can see over the years, they can fluctuate. We have seen a slight increase in autism spectrum disorder diagnoses increasing a little bit, but I think that just can happen at different times. We kind of can ebb and flow. And I look through here. The students, the programming we program the most for are students with learning disabilities or students with other health impairments. So when you think about other health impairments, that's also a category that students with ADHD diagnosis or pieces that with attention that can fall under other health impairments. So we work really hard, have been working really hard to make sure that we meet the students' needs in the least restrictive environment. And that means that in the classroom, in the general education setting as much as possible. That doesn't mean that that's always the least restrictive setting for students. Sometimes students need more support than that. And that's when we look at those other classroom settings. You can see this, I leave this on here, even though it's a break in the years, because in 13-14, you could see that we had more students that were out of the classroom 40% of the time than we had students that were in the classroom more than 80% of the time. So we worked hard over the years to make sure we were getting students in the classroom and getting their supports within that setting. So this year we still have a high percentage of students that are out, that are getting the majority of their time and services are in the general education setting. This is about 62% if I was to look at it and the number, and the state wants you above that 60% threshold. So we're still meeting that threshold that the state was looking for. We do have some increase in special class, but I think that will also trend, we'll see that trend. Sometimes they need a year or two in a special class to make sure they're getting the supports they need, and then we're always looking to get students back in the general ed setting.
Sarah, I noticed in 2017 to whatever 2019, we seemed to take a pretty sizable jump in, general ed. We were really close to that 80% mark. Do you think that maybe we were perhaps a little overconfident as a district with putting the students in the rooms and then had to kind of retreat and in years after that?
I think that, right, they go back to 1819.
I just kind of remember that was the time that when Mr. Catania was here.
Yes,
There was that kind of push to get to the 80% mark.
there was definitely a push to get students in the classroom more. And so I think that we worked really hard to get students in the classrooms as much as possible, but it's always been student-based. So that's why I hesitate to say it was our push versus, because we could be back up there in a couple of years, but it depends on how significant the needs of students are. So we're always trying and looking at ways to get students in the classroom as much as possible. I think that there are some other trends here that might impact this, and the fact that, like, I also look at, you'll see, we'll talk, well, I'm not sure if I'll talk about preschool later on, so we can talk about it. So preschool in particular, when I think about my first part of my career, we were not struggling for preschool providers to provide special ed services. As we get further down this line, there is less and less preschool providers, which I think then impacts how students are coming into school and how, because early intervention and preschool has a big impact on when they can get services at that level. Once we get them into kindergarten, they've already had some services provided. This is a statewide concern, the lack of preschool providers. And I think that we're starting to see some of that impact where you could see some of those very solid preschool services. And now we just seem to have students coming in with less of the services behind them, whether it's a lack of providers or a lack of being, just having the opportunity to receive those services. So I think it's I don't know if that totally answers your question, but I think it's more than just that we were pushing at that time. I think there's more than that too. So this is, we compared to different districts. So.
You get the minus
You
on
look
top
at
if
that?
you want, Sarah.
What was that?
Get the minus on top. See the minus?
This one?
Yeah. A couple times, that should
Let's
give us the
see.
full scale, I think.
Okay. So. You can see when because we try to look regionally at where we are with our least restrictive environment as well. And you can see that we're still well within the range of what we need to be compared to some of our school districts closer. We have more students that are in the general ed setting more of the day. And then there's some other districts, you can see Tupper and Brushton, they have more students in the classroom for the general education pieces. But I think that we equalized. If I was to go back up, back into those 1819s, you'd see much more of a discrepancy. We were one of the first districts to really look at that LRA piece. But other districts are realizing it's really important to look at that for each. So then we look at diploma and credential recipients. So of the students that crossed the stage at graduation last year, the percentages are not on there. Let me look right here for just a minute. We 2023, when you look at those all stacked together, 2023, and you look at the percentages, you can see there was a slight change from 2023 to when they graduated in 24 to when they graduated in 25. Our general education population of students was larger in this pie than this pie. Part of that is the class size of students depending on how many students have IEPs or 504s in that class size can change that percentage. But we did have 19% of our students with disabilities were completers out of the total. So all those students on the stage, 19% of them fell under the category of students with disabilities. 5% fell under the category of having a 504 plan. And then we had a few students that a student with a disability has an option to also receive a CDOS credential. And so you'll see that CDOS noted on there too. So when I look at it, the majority of our students up there received diplomas, but there were some students that received the CDOS credential as well. But overall, it was good. It's always good to see them at graduation and achieving that, because some of them have worked really, 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 well, I mean, everyone works hard for that, but some of them have had some other challenges that they've overcome to get there.
Sarah, the CDOS acronym.
Oh, sorry, I'm using my acronyms, yeah. Sorry. Career and Developmental Occupational Studies credential. So to receive that, they have to have a certain number of hours in work-based learning. Oftentimes students that go to CTE and BOCES also often hit that credit and threshold mark. So, but thank you, Colleen. Yeah, call me out if I'm saying too many acronyms here. Princely placed in non-public and elementary, secondary school students with disabilities. So any private school that falls within our district, we are the CSE of responsibility for them. And so we have meetings on those students, we evaluate those students, we recommend services for those students. Right now we have I think that's about 6 when I look at the actual number of students that are in these settings that we're providing services to. When you think about this, we have some students at Northwood, we have some students at North Country School, and we have some students at St. Agnes that fall into this piece. Do you have any questions about that? We have some students at home as well. So if the students homeschool but need services, sometimes they'll come in the buildings and have that service. And so we also work with those families as well. Give you a quick TCIS update. So therapeutic crisis intervention for schools. We have been training the trainers who are myself, Sonia Franklin, Amy Gotham, and Jennifer Tuggy. We had to be retrained, and we did that in November or October of 2025. So every 2 years we have to go for a retraining and we have to pass a test, both a physical piece and the pieces of the system, a multiple choice test that we have to take and then get our results. And so we all were recertified, which was great. We have right now, as of this date, we have 43 fully trained staff in the district. And we are having a refresher actually tomorrow in this room. So if you're trained, you have to be refreshed, and that usually happens twice a year. So questions? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very good. How would you judge the appropriateness of what our needs are overall relative to what we can provide? Are we pretty well appropriately matched? Are we over in one area, under in another, particularly if we're under?
Yeah, no, we do pretty well. We do pretty well. There are some times when the threshold can't be met here. That's when sometimes we'll make that recommendation to CBES BOCES, and thankfully they have programming there that's has additional supports that we don't always have here. But overall, we do pretty well. This year, we have layered in some things like we're working with a behavior specialist that comes up and is helping classroom teachers. So able to go into some classrooms, look at some students, make sure that we are appropriately planning for those students' needs. And off and on, we need to have those resources come in to just help make sure the settings and systems are working for the students. But overall, I do think our students are meeting with success, and that shows in when we get them to that senior year and they've taken all their regents and they're crossing that stage and they're getting that diploma. We get the majority of our students get to that spot.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I raised the question last meeting, so it's really timely that you're here. So I want to better understand our fiscal responsibility in this. Every time a service gets arranged, there's a cost. And if the service comes to us with a redacted name, then we're never going to say no, because you're the expert and it's yours. And so do you work personally with Dana on this? Are there budgetary conversations that happen? Is there a role in
We work together, Dana and I, and we we make sure that we're efficient with our staffing, because we don't want to be understaffed, but we also want to be overstaffed. So we look to make sure we're efficient with our staffing, the students are getting their needs met, and that we're making recommendations that are making sure they're meeting their goals that are on their plans. Part of the process in New York State is that ultimately the board gets to approve those recommendations. And so that's just the way the state has set that up, so that if there was a time frame, thankfully we're lucky that we're usually, I think we're pretty student focused, so we're pretty much all in agreement as we look at those and make those decisions. But that's also a reason why, if at any point you wanted me to come in and you had questions about recommendations, I would come in and talk with you through them. And I wouldn't release any identifiable information, but we'd talk through what the needs of the student look like. Does that make sense?
But I don't think
Yeah.
this has an interest
Oh, no, I
with
didn't.
my own
Mhm.
kid. Medical service here. But you bump up against financial realities, budgets come down from above. Imagine. See what it is.
And Sarah intimated some of those changes that we made over the years, particularly with some of the reassignment of teaching assistants last year, where we utilized our general education staff to provide RTI, generalized RTI for our students, response intervention services at the elementary level in the classroom. And with the growing specialized needs of students who required one-to-one support or additional support, we reassigned our existing TA staff to account for those needs. So there was a shift from personnel from the general education side of the house to the special education side of the house. So that's all part of kind of the realities that you speak of. Is we're building budgets to ensure that we meet the needs of students. But some of the programming that is the most intensive for students at CVS, we're talking about serious costs associated with those.
And could there be an unexpected wave demographically? Where?
We've been riding it.
But we are the ultimate party here. Make those decisions. Eager to that's just a fact.
Sarah, is there any additional funding that is offered at all? I know that this question has come up a few times that different constituents have brought up. We've had a lot of, new students come into our district that have required additional services, mostly the English language learners. But is there any additional funding that's coming from New York State or anything to help offset perhaps any personnel that we might have to either hire or, repurpose throughout the district?
We do receive some reimbursements, and Dana works a lot on those pieces as well for services under special education. So there's some Medicaid pieces that we do get reimbursements for when I think about our specialized services, that occupational therapy, the physical therapy, speech therapy, and then some skilled nursing services could be in there as well. So Dana works to make sure he's using all those reimbursements. If students meet certain thresholds, then we also get some funding back through New York State. So him and I work together on to make sure that any funding that we can get back, we are always working on that. So when we have students that come in that have very significant needs, I'm talking about like the students may require special classes and one-to-ones and OT and PT. And when they have those significant needs, oftentimes that's a student that we can get some funding back from through New York State. And so we're always looking at trying to make sure that we have all of those in and that they're done on time. There's a whole thing, if it's not on time, it's 27 years. So we're like,
It's a lot. It's a
we
lot.
get that right on it. Mhm.
There was a situation, previous opinion around the board, that there was a situation, that there was an extraordinary need that could not even be filled in New York State.
Yes.
And the board had quite a few discussions about it because the financial impact really affected our tax cap.
Mhm.
But we just basically kind of came down to it as it's the right thing to do. And just kind of bit the bullet and made up for it in O-rings, because the expression used to be in the previous job, but yeah, just made do.
Sometimes, I mean, and that's it. We have students that move in and out of district, and we try to always start with what can we do here in Lake Placid, but there are situations that arise where that least restrictive environment just is not within our district, that we don't have the supports to make sure that those students are making the gains they need to make. And those situations arise, and we do have to take them one by one, and then we work on where can we, what any funding support that can come into play, we work on that funding support. The nice piece though, Don, is if you look over it, our trends have stayed pretty consistent over the years. So yes, sometimes we have an outlier of needs in different areas, but the overall we've stayed pretty consistent, and the way that we've been able to approach supports has stayed pretty consistent. So that's
This,
important.
the system that we use and other schools use doesn't support a reactionary approach
Mhm.
to meeting the needs of students. The fallback is constantly to enable the student to succeed to the greatest extent possible themselves, and not to the least restrictive, right? And not to jump rungs of the ladder and additional supports without validation and a process through committee. And at times exercising different options that are less restrictive before a more restrictive option. So in that essence, it's beneficial because it affords students the opportunity to thrive to the greatest extent possible, but it also doesn't allow the whims of a particular individual or experience. This is how someone views a particular student, new or long-term, to be assigned services that are extremely robust compared to what they had without sufficient validation. So that process, when the board attests to the changes in educational placements and services for students, that's the product of the CSE world and the meetings that are held communally that Sarah and the chairs oversee. So it's a pretty robust framework.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for giving me your time, hearing about it. If you think of other questions, you know where to find me, or Tim knows where to find me for sure.
Thank you. I think it's make her staying longer after a long day, so we
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
that.
I'm in the way to that.
Okay.
You know how I like to stay. I
Whatever
like to
is preferred.
stay.
Certainly skip
So,
out. So we'll move into the section of reports to the board, and our first report will be from Will for the student board member report, please.
Hi, everyone. So a couple things have happened since our last board meeting. Recently, the chemistry students and the earth and space science students took a field trip up to the Alcoa plant up near Messina. I personally was on that trip, and I do have to say it was a lot of fun. I really like seeing the big pot room, which was really cool, where the aluminum cools down. That I thought was really cool, and just seeing what it's like to be on an actual like factory plant. And you never know. Some people in our school district might like working at Alcoa, and you know what? It's a good place to work and seems like fun. Get to work with you know, aluminum. Some people like that. And then we also have a Spirit Week, which I do have a poster. So we do have on Monday, next week, we have Wear Holiday Pajama Pants Day. On Tuesday, the 16th, Dress Like Gingerbread or Candy Canes Day. On Wednesday, it's Wear Your Favorite Holiday Headgear or Hairstyle. Thursday, it's Dress Like Snow Miser or Heat Miser, which I know from previous field trips in the elementary school, we always used to watch that at the Whiteface Lodge, which that was always fun. And then Friday is of course Ugly Sweater Day. I think everyone very much enjoys dressing up. If you like to pass that around to see what the flyer looks like. And then we also have these Blue Bomber Pride passports. So basically what they are for is so that students, they can take one and go up to, if they're going to watch a play or any sports games, they can get it punched. And then after they get all 10, they can win a they can win a $25 gift card to a local business around our community. This was thanks to community schools for setting this up. And then finally, we got Bumble. He has been missing for the last couple of days since Friday. I don't know if you want to pass it around, but Bumble is, yeah.
Have you had his shots?
Wow.
So everyone's still looking for him, so who knows? Somebody will find him, but yeah.
What happens when people find Bumble, Will?
They can, pretty sure they win a gift
They
that
get
they're
like a
choosing,
prize or
like a candy or a gift card maybe. Not entirely sure, but haven't found it yet. But and then finally, we still have our food drive going. This is for Thrive and Thrift. I think the last day is Friday, so any cans you want to donate, take a grade if you want. Donate to our 10th grade, 11th grade, saying. So whatever grade wins with the most amount of cans donated usually wins a prize. I know last year the 9th graders won and they had an ice cream party and that was the year, and I know everyone really enjoyed that. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Will.
Thank
We
you.
always enjoy listening to you and hear what's going on in school. It's awesome. Moving on to Mr. Seymour and the superintendent report, please.
Great. So there are some additional items that are going to take place throughout the holiday season, as it were. I know that at the middle school and high school level, a message got sent home earlier in the week for families about the winter break community schools offerings that we do. So this is the second year where we're doing asynchronous opportunities for kids. So they can sign up and get free passes to the Wild Center's Wild Lights exhibit, to a movie at the Palace Theater, tokens at the Penalty Box, or an ice cream at Emma's. We had tremendous participation last year, so it's nice that we're providing that again. And this year we're doing additional workshops for students over the Christmas break. We've never done Christmas break before, so with it being a 2-week break, we're excited for that. So there'll be open gym at the elementary. There'll be a craft day at the elementary. And then at the high school level, there's a robotics and drone flying workshop and line dancing for middle and high school students. I think knitting and crocheting as well. So lots of cool things that are available for our kids over the break. I love the idea of the Bomber Pride card that Mr. Gotham and really it was a committee of district staff just recognized that there's an opportunity to get more of our kids to attend and feel some of that Bomber Pride before Carnival in February. And so this was an ingenious way to get kids involved. So I look forward to seeing. At the elementary school, our PTO group, the Friends group, has done an excellent job just really finding ways to interact in the elementary school. I think yesterday, actually, the Friends group did the annual holiday shopping, which is basically providing every student an opportunity to buy gifts for their family and have them wrapped discreetly for dissemination over the break. So we had lots of volunteers in for that. But they also introduced the Lunch with a Loved One offering in November, just prior to Thanksgiving. And we had over 100 family members attend and just be able to sit down and have lunch with their student. The feedback was tremendous, and we're going to keep doing it and continue to find more ways to get families involved at the elementary school. It just seems like such low hanging fruit for us. So I'm excited to see the partnership happening with groups like that. As Will indicated, the food drive is doing really well. We're over 2,000 items for the district. There is a need for can openers. So if anyone watching this meeting happens to have any can openers, those donations would be appreciated by Thrive and Thrift, who of course hands out cans at a pretty high rate. So having the openers would be good.
Corkscrews count?
Depends what you're opening, Mr. Hopkins. Possibly. We do have some things to look forward to. Our chorus and band and art showings are coming up on December 11th and December 17th. So thank you to our music teachers, Mr. Prosper and Ms. Kakufka, do an amazing job in preparing our students, and to our art teachers, Mr. Robinson and Mrs. Huber, for all of their work. As we look forward to those. We have the Name the Plows competition happening right now, which seems an apt competition given the forecast for tomorrow. And so within our 24-mile catchment in Lake Placid Village, there is a need to maintain those and numerous plows that are yet unnamed, thus unloved. And so we need to give them names, and each class has an opportunity to finally spread the joy of Christmas via the plows. So our holiday stroll weekend coming up, the plows will be formally named and the winners celebrated for years to come. College and career readiness is something that I also wanted to just talk a little about with the board. So this continues to be an area of importance nationally, and something that I know came up quite a bit in the goal setting process at the start of the year. I know that under students first and foremost, for preparation for colleges and careers, and for the second goal of education, which is reviewing our programming, there seemed a clear need to start to kind of articulate some of the many things that we do for our students to prepare them for college and career readiness. So our counseling team and our principals have gathered together and created a list of things chronologically that students do over the course of time to prepare them for whatever endeavors they seek outside of high school. So the link to that is there, and it's available for your review at your convenience. I kind of view this as an ongoing conversation that we're going to have. Some of the things that I'll just note is, by tabulating all of these different things, we've found some opportunities to expand, which is pretty good. We know that that period from junior year to senior year is kind of the Wild West for families in terms of FAFSA and the Common Application and getting your resume ready and all of those things that can be daunting. And so we're looking at adding into what's listed on here, a boot camp in September for our seniors. It's one of the first things we're looking at doing, and really just getting that essay that goes into the Common App for those applying to college, hammering that out right off. We're looking at our senior seminar that we provide for our students to assist in both their capstone project that they do towards the end of the year, but also their plan for leaving school, having all of the college-bound students completing more of the things they need in their checklist done in September as opposed to November. That's something that actually came out of the feedback from our surveys from parents last year, is that if we can expedite that process and provide some support earlier, it'd be beneficial. So I think that there's an opportunity there. At the elementary school, students complete an employment profile, basically. Each year, starting in kindergarten, students talk about what they like and whether or not they want to be a farmer or a dragon or whatever they might want to be. We keep those each year and they are put in a folder and sent from grade level to grade level. And it starts to show a trend from where students thought they might be over time to where they end up. But what we fail to do is share that with parents. And so this year and henceforth, those will be in the final fourth quarter report card that's mailed home with families, so they can have an opportunity to talk to their child about, hey, it seems like you're interested in automotive. Where do you think that you want to go with that? So I think that there's some opportunities there. We used to do FAFSA workshops for financial aid process and things of that nature. We're looking at bringing that back. And then the many things that are incorporated into this PDF that the board has available in the report, we're currently working on making a trifold that's going to be able to be disseminated to parents so they can just see kind of what's happening and what to expect at each level that their child is going through school, so they're feeling supported. Our outcomes, I think, are really strong. I think our students have great support, and there's a clear process, but being able to articulate it and refer to it at our convenience, I think, is beneficial. So there's plenty of information there, but I just wanted to make that available to all of you so that you can see some of the things that our team consists of.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Tim. Next is the information for the board. There's nothing under public content, and there's some information under executive content for you to look over. Under the policy first read for the board self-evaluation, again, there's some information under executive content for you to review. 5A, minutes of the board, was under consent. Moving into personnel, consent agenda, the recommended action is to approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 6B, teaching staff tenure recommendation. 6C, food service helper resignation. And 6D, teaching staff unpaid leave of absence. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, please vote.
6, yeah.
Teaching staff retirement, recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Phyllis Lawrence, special education teacher at the elementary school, effective June 30th, 2026. May I have a motion, please?
So,
Any discussion?
Mrs. Lawrence has really been an asset. I know supervisors here as well, Mrs. Allen. She's found a niche in more recent years dealing with our younger students, in particular, our K students and some of our first graders. And she really resembles those characteristics that we strive for in our kids and in our staffs. She will be very much missed at the end of the year.
Please vote.
6, yes.
Additional action items, they are both under consent, the budget calendar approval and special education. Moving on to the second good of the cause. Anyone in our audience this evening would like to say anything further? Tim, anything online?
No emails.
Okay. Moving into linking goals with agenda items. Anyone have any links that they'd like to share? Certainly students first and foremost, with everything that was in the various reports and the environmental club visiting and Sarah Allen's report on special education.
I'm really impressed with how you get the kids out.
Yeah.
The college trip that you talked about, going to Oklahoma, amazing.
Wonderful opportunities. Other things? If there's anything additional that comes up, feel free to let Tim know and he can have it. Initial adjournment phase, our next meeting date and location would be after the holidays on January 13th. Does anyone have any old agenda topics?
I have old agenda question, I guess. For the Elderwood that we voted on last meeting, what's our plan in 4 years or whatever it is, when that is, the assessment renews, so that we're not losing out on that other tax money? Is that something that we have to wait for the town to decide what they're doing, or is that something that Bill should be looking into, or how is that gonna work for us with that?
It's a good question. I know that one of the items that the district through Mr. Kissel has insisted on moving forward is that we get a quarterly update about any of the cases that are pending and any discrepancies in the valuations that are coming.
Gotcha.
So that will probably in all likelihood, if we're not vigilant and diligent, as you say, by the time several years, we will start to not remember the impact of this instance. So I do think that there's an opportunity to talk to Bill about how we can be mindful of that down the road. But let me have a conversation with him and make sure that if there's something we can put in place that we do.
Or is there or two, is there something that we should be watching with them with what they're up to, and just how that, so the assessor can't even evaluate it till the 2029, is that correct?
That's my understanding of the settlement. It's frozen.
I did speak with Todd, the assessor of the town, and as we know, it's at 1.2 million for the next 3 years. And what he did say that there's nothing 3 years from now that's definitely going to say that they might properly be assessed if they continue to go with the income profit or loss based approach that they have taken recently, saying that they are at a business loss and therefore it puts them into a different category for assessment. The local assessor is well aware, I have to be honest, of the antics that are taking place. But not to say that 3 years from now, we don't know what they will be assessed at if they're able to do what they've done currently.
And I also agree with you too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off. I also agree with you too. I think that we were held hostage at this point. This was blindsided to us and we just had to eat it. And it's absolutely shameful. I've said it 3 times now. It is shameful that company did what they did. And all you're doing is hurting the students and the kids. And we need to have some kind of game plan going forward to make sure if I'm still sitting here in this seat or whatever my position is, we need to have some kind of game plan to not take that punch in the face again.
As long as we
Fight a
are,
little bit more.
as long as we are allowing contested appraisals to be dealt with within a year, then we're always going to be okay.
Right.
It's
4
that
years, 5 years,
backlog that's problematic. And I think certainly for me, I'll be driving that point home. It's going to be a recurring conversation that I'll be having with the towns.
Again, I think that Tim has inherited some things that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
from
I just-
7 years ago that just
Oh,
kind
no,
of was out there in limbo, that no one was aware of, but, I also think that there's no, given that 3 years from now, that they won't find another loophole to
Right.
continue to stay in that low assessment. I mean, anybody locally, I've had numerous people come up to me that says, I live in a modest home, I'm assessed at 600, 700,000. How could possibly that property, but again, it's based on their income. And they're using the card that they're running at a deficit. So it's unfortunate, but I think being on top of things, like Tim said, quarterly, looking for anything that might come down the pipeline will put us in a better position. Because it's not just the loss of the 1.2, it's a cumulative thing over several years that.
Well, it's like $110,000 on top of what we
Yeah.
paid out already, so if you just do whatever average tax loss for the 4 years, it's another, so it's like a $300,000
Overall.
loss.
Yeah. A lot of money.
And I have one other question.
Sure.
So this is about, and I know like Ryan probably saw it, but you got the new rules for athletes being eligible for sports.
Yes.
I had people ask me about that over the weekend, and I'm glad that came out because that took care of most of it. I guess the only other question is when the students, it's a lot on them to make sure they're doing all this stuff and whatever else. And I hear from some parents where sometimes it's the teachers aren't getting the grades into the system to be reviewed. And then also when it's time to, I guess, discuss with the students, picking a time that's good for the student not taking them out of a class that they're now gonna miss whatever, if you can.
Yeah, and exacerbate the issue more.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All good
Those were
points.
two things that came up over the weekend, so.
Definitely.
I can tell you, Mrs. Cash is amazing when it comes to that, because we had some issues with one of my daughters, and she was actually passing, but it was, again, like Chris said,
Yeah.
the teacher hadn't uploaded grades yet. So we did a little fighting and, you know.
So is it the guidance office?
I
then
think
that
there's a
would call?
different, I think they changed the buffer into
Which-
allowing it,
yes.
and that seems, what I read, it seems good. So.
That's what the attempt was. So previously, so this is to determine if a student who plays a sport can continue to do so if their grades start to fall. And so previously, a grade report was generated on Tuesday, and then students who were in peril would be called down, and until their grade was raised, they would be suspended from the team. If they were failing multiple classes, basically. And so the change in the regulation was to run the grade report on Monday, and then to build in a grace period from Monday until Wednesday to recheck, to ensure that if students are suspended from team activities, that it's valid. But secondary to that is the responsibilities that you talked about, Chris, with teachers. And at the middle high school, Fridays now are designated for 10th period as grade input, mandated. And so this is a new thing that we're doing this year, because parents and students deserve to have, pretty clear understanding of how their child is doing in class. So a reasonable expectation is grade input 1 week at a time. And so far, it's
So does
working.
the guidance department, ask the student to come to the guidance office and say that this is what's going on and you have to,
The athletic director does. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so the Ms. Cash assists Mr. Nemec in generating the report of students who are on the bubble or outside. And then that's Monday morning. Mr. Nemec will call down any student and talk to the student, and also just verify with the student the situation if there's circumstances that warrant consideration. It is a black and white rule in the sense, but there are instances where penalizing a student for things outside their control is also not beneficial. And so that's the gray, that's a necessary component of this, despite the desire to look at things as clearly as possible.
I mean, I look at school tool and it looks like, for my son anyways, they're doing way better than I used to, so.
Excellent. We've
100%.
really driven the point home.
There's not that question, because if, you have that grace period from Tuesday to Wednesday, hey, this is your fault, this is the school's fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't have to have that conversation. with the
Sure.
here, which is nice. So
I think the change is beneficial,
Appreciate that change.
and I also like that with the grace period built in, it gives a protocol for teachers to show when students are improving. Like, even when I was a classroom teacher, when a student was suspended for academics from athletics, they would immediately run from the office to my classroom if it was me and say, like, what do I need to do to get my grade up? Be like, well, you need to do the work that was assigned like 2 weeks ago. And so that pressure kind of was counteractive to the actual learning process. And so I think the goal of this regulation is, the athletic council meant to do it. I think it's going to pay dividends in the end. But your point about pulling students out at low impact times is a great one, Chris, and I will make sure the admin team's aware of that.
Yes. I don't know if there's a way to, look through schedules, study halls, or 10th period schedule, I don't know. But the one person that talked to me said their daughter was pulled out of a math class, that then she had to go back in 10th period to do stuff in the math class because she missed it, so.
Sure, yeah. Yep, no, I'll communicate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
any new agenda topics? If not, then the recommended action is proposed motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the sale or lease of district property. May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Please vote.
6 F.
If I could, I'd just like to make a point of this. In the write-up that's there's a recommended action about district property, and the executive content refers to that. But then under the public content, the purpose to go into executive session is to discuss special ed.
Oh, that's an error. I can correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it must have been
A holdover from a
Yeah.
previous meeting.
there, but not that it's gonna make a difference.
Yeah,
but-
no, it's good.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.